G, discussion of solid waste and recycling green tag program. Adam and I talked about this today, and I said I thought it was really good, but we'd have to really get information out, maybe put it in a gas fill tree, and I'd help stuff them if you need help, but we need to put that information and make sure that they're well aware of what's going to happen, otherwise there'll be a lot of...
This is the green tag program that Wall Lake uses. This is actually Wall Lake's tag. I've asked them for contact information for their vendor. They've provided that information to us. They go through about 100 of them a year. However, one of the things that I did discuss with them is you could probably anticipate significantly more usage in the first year as you kind of get everybody into the procedure. We recognize the fact that there will probably be a couple of snags to the process in the first month or two as people get educated into the process. Because we will definitely need to do some upfront communication if this is something you want to move forward with, and of course after that is done, you will still run into the issues. It's just a given. I'd like to give Curtis a little credit here. He actually talked with me a little bit about what he's seen done in the past, and one of the things we've discussed is how you come up with the information on making determinations for these is, of course, opening bags up and doing inspections. And one of the things was mentioned that actually he had seen that in his experience that there had been bags opened at almost every location that they stopped at. My understanding is the procedure is usually they would open the first bag, determine if it was acceptable or not, and if it wasn't, they would leave all the bags. Is that the procedure you saw, Curtis?
One of the larger companies I worked before in Milwaukee, we just did it at the same time that there was a cable crackdown. I don't know if that was coincidence or it was just so our management could remember to do it, but we'd do a crackdown period for a month, and just at every stop.
So just an idea of how we can integrate the process in and do some annual reviews of it. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see what the tag looked like and answer any questions you might have about it, take any comments you might have on it if you like that tag system.
What's the reason for this?
What the tag will allow us to do is to start taking steps to reduce the amount of recycling and illegal items that end up in our trash and then, of course, end up out in the landfill. Taking a little bit more of a proactive procedure in reducing the amount of materials going out there. And one of the things we've recently learned is that the EPA actually says that about 75% of what's put into landfills is actually recyclable. So, and with us being in a situation where a 5% shift one way or the other could be enough to cover the entire cost of a new vehicle, there's a significant interest in, of course, using a procedure that would suggest a more efficient way of recycling.
You know, I got a question on all the little check marks here. It says not on curb at time. How are you going to stick it on there if it's not on the curb?
Yeah. As I said, this is a generic tag that Wall Lake uses. I'm not going to say that we'd use it for all the different ones on there, but rather than developing our own and paying for a lot charge to develop our own, this would be an alternative.
Okay.
This would be an alternative where we could save
Take this and check the one appropriate.
Save us $1,000 worth of setup costs to set up our own new one. And just use a generic tag that offers all kinds of different things, even though there's about 3 or 4 on there that really wouldn't apply.
I'm curious now, would you have the garbage collectors do the inspections, or would you have a supervisor come behind it?
Police department.
Yeah. The reason I asked is because, you know, would it slow down the process to where...
Yes, when you would do inspections, you would run into situations where you'd be slowing them down a little bit, but I think if you talk to them, you would find that they realize that from a financial standpoint, this is the steps we need to take.
And it wouldn't be every week.
Correct.
It wouldn't be all the time.
One of the things we've talked about is doing it randomly. When we did our initial drive-through, when I went on the trucks with them, what we did is I had particular time points spot. So that when we went and say if it was 8:03, the next house we hit after 8:03, that way I was not picking on anyone in particular. We just knew that we had timestamps set up for knowing that the next house would be the one that we would randomly check. So there would need to be a little bit of self-policing as far as making sure that the checks stay random from that perspective. But we would believe that in the first 6 months you would see a lot of random checking, a lot more than you would probably see after that fact.
But in reality, they're supposed to be doing this now.
Correct.
This is just kind of a warning ticket, basically.
It does two things. One, it makes people aware of the fact that they're not in compliance. And two, it also prevents us from getting calls out to coming back and picking up their trash. Because we run into situations where we even have people sometimes even admit that when they call in, oh, well, I didn't have it out at 7 a.m. Well, you know.
Tell them to chase on the garbage truck.
Correct. So it's a situation where we want to make sure that if we left a bag for any particular reason, that there is something to identify the fact that yes, this bag was left for that purpose.
It would only take a couple times, and that would probably not occur often.
Yeah.
And perhaps, some education. We talked about this, educating the public, on the cost savings and what it's really going to save the city. And like you mentioned, if we just shifted 5% of the savings, enough money to buy a truck. And I think there's still some confusion over what's recyclable. I'm still not real sure which plastics I can throw in the recycle and which ones I can't.
Right
I know
now,
one of the things.
Styrofoam, can we?
No.
So,
I know that one of the things we've been trying to do from an outreach perspective, Bill, is I did speak at the Kiwanis Club, I spoke at the Lions Club, I spoke at the Toastmasters. We did a mailer in our newsletter. We did something. We'll follow up with another one that talks in more detail about what's recyclable. Also, the Howard Center and the landfill sent out new mailers in April that told you specifically what you can recycle and what you can't, to kind of answer some of those questions. We're also going to be writing, we are going to be looking at doing more to, of course, get the information out there. Writing something up on our website. What we'll probably do is the first time we go through this tag system and the first time we see a situation where we need to tag you, we'll probably have a letter that we'll probably leave behind that will say, look, we took your stuff today, however, in the future we will not be taking your stuff if it fails to meet the standard. Basically a warning the first time.
Where will you leave it? I mean, are you going to come back here and then mail it to them, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still details that need to be worked out.
And whenever we can, mention the cost savings of, we want to keep your tax dollars down, and the truck purchase, can be.
I was actually talking to Chip Colburn today, and him and I both heard on Friday the same NPR radio report. Was talking about the city of San Francisco is struggling to keep costs down through landfill and trash services, and their city council is considering making composting mandatory.
And I heard that same segment, and they're down to 25%. Actually goes to the landfill, 75%.
We're at an 85% mark.
We've got 85% going to the landfill.
Correct. Yeah, San Francisco is one of the best as far as recycling goes.
Any other discussion on the green tag program? Okay, we'll move on.
I would like to
yes.
commend Adam for coming up to the Lions Club and talking about recycling. It was very enjoyable. I think everybody appreciated his talk on recycling.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, item number 6, public input on solid waste matters. Is there any public input? Public, is there any input?
Got Earl.
If not,